Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Leadership Trail Mix. I am Miguel Oliveira, and for the next few minutes, we'll be together looking at one of the main ingredients that compose this art and science we call people leadership. As we get close to the end of March 2025, I want to talk about women. March is Women's History Month. March 8th was International Women's Day. And this year, after 6 long years, I was able to be in Brazil and physically hug and honor my mom and my sister, the two most important women in my life. I have since then found myself thinking of the amazing women I've met and trying to find a way to talk about them in the workplace. And then I found it. Not exactly what I thought I was looking for, but something that strongly resonated with me and that I hope will resonate with you too. What I found was a man called Lee Chambers, a keynote speaker on well-being, inclusion, and leadership from the UK. He has a long resume and a long list of accomplishments, including being the founder-director of Male Allies UK. I really hope to be able to bring him to talk to us at some point. But anyway, someone I am connected to on LinkedIn liked one of Lee's posts, which brought him to my timeline, and his latest post caught my eyes immediately. It was a list of things that came from a woman and that, shame on me, I had no idea. Some of them were so surprising that I confess, I went ahead and Googled it to then feel even more embarrassed for not just believing Lee's list in the first place. Things like Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth, computer programming, treatment for malaria, windshield wipers, Monopoly, yes, the game, are just a few of the items on the list. All of them followed by came from a woman. The last item, which put a smile on my face for its simplicity and beauty, was you came from a woman. Thanks for the reminder, Lee. The post I'm referring starts with the words, "The world has been built by men for men," and goes on to say that, and here I quote, "Many innovations were a collective effort, but when credit is given, history can literally feel like his story." End quote. The whole post made me think about conversations I've had with women and things I've seen happen to women throughout my career, and more specifically an article a dear friend of mine shared with me a few months ago and that I'll share a few thoughts from with you today. Before I do, a few call-outs. You may be listening to me and thinking, oh, this episode is for men. It's not. This episode is for all of us. I've seen some of the behaviors I'm going to refer to here being demonstrated by women, either towards other women or towards men. So many women had to adopt the rules of the game as a way to protect and defend themselves that at times they end up treating others how they were treated without even realizing. Or they do realize it and think that because they went through that experience and survived, others should have to go through it as well. I personally don't think that's how it should be. But it's probably a hairy enough topic for a dedicated episode, right? All right, another call out. You may be listening to me and thinking, there are more women than men in the company I work for, and most of them are in positions of power. We don't have a problem. Well, think again. The things I've been and will be talking about here are deep-rooted in societal norms that we live by without even realizing. But let's assume that there is nothing to be solved in your company or in your team. Or even better, let's assume that you, my dear male or female listener, figured it all out and is very intentional on every or most interactions you have with anyone. Great. But let's not forget that is not the reality for a lot of people out there. And the deep-rooted societal norms I just mentioned go far beyond the corporate environment. More than paying attention to our own behaviors, there is a lot of power and actually a huge need for us to step up, open our microphones, or raise our hands, and make sure all voices are being properly heard. All right, enough call-outs. Let's go. The article my friend shared with me is titled, How to Deal with Mansplaining, Hip-Eating, and Bro-Appropriating at Work. It was written by Judy Sims, founder of the Center for Expansive Leadership and the Expansive Woman Project. We'll be looking at the definition of these 3 behaviors as proposed by Judy, as well as the responses she recommends. And then I'll talk about my recommended responses for us as allies. No matter the role you're playing, we will have to be 1, comfortable with the uncomfortable. 2, we'll have to differentiate intent and impact. And number 3, we're going to have to make sure that the how, the what, the when, and the where are appropriate. Let's start with mansplaining. Judy says that, and here I quote, "It occurs when a man interrupts a woman to explain something to her that she actually knows far more about than he does. And he often does this in a condescending and dismissive manner." End quote. The response recommended is to politely interject by saying, "Oh, I'm familiar with this topic," or "I'd love to hear your perspective after I finish." My recommendation for us watching is interrupt the interrupter saying, "Excuse me, but I'd love for us to allow Sam to finish her thoughts before you share yours." If the interrupter doesn't stop, okay, let them finish, and then intervene. "I'm so sorry, Chris, but I'll need you to repeat what you said because I got distracted trying to guess where Sam was trying to say what she was going to say. Sam, do you mind finishing your thought? And then we can go back to Chris. I really want to hear what he has to say as well." If it is a virtual meeting, maybe establish a rule. Can we all agree to use the hand raise feature so that everyone can have an opportunity to finish their thoughts? And if there is no space for these things to happen live, circle back with the interrupter or the explainer afterwards to help them understand that while you don't believe that they had the intent, they had an impact on you and potentially on the person who got interrupted. All these actions, if taken in a kind way, can go a long way. The second and third behavior are somewhat similar. Judy calls them heap-eating, starting with an H, and bropropriating. She defines the former, heap-eating, as, and here I quote, "a situation where a man repeats an idea that was previously suggested by a woman. Often, it was literally just suggested by said woman as in mere seconds before. The idea is then accepted by others present in the conversation as the man's idea. He then gets the credit and attention." Her definition for the latter, bropropriating, is when a man simply steals a woman's idea and then takes credit for it. He will often say something like, "Yes, that's what I was just saying," even though it was definitely not what he was just saying. The responses recommended in the article are: address a heap-eater by drawing attention to the initial idea's origin politely but firmly, saying, "As I previously mentioned," redirects credit where it's due without appearing confrontational. For the bropropriation, reinforce your contributions by restating your point if it's overshadowed. Offer credit by saying, "I'm glad you agree with my point about ... This emphasizes your input and encourages fair recognition." And here I end quote. If you see either heap-eating or bropropriation happening, my recommendation is call it out. "Chris, thank you for the contribution, but is it different from what Sam suggested a few minutes ago? I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the build here." Or, once the repeater finishes, say, "Sam, it seems that Chris just said what you proposed with different words, right? Does it still capture the essence of what you were saying in the first place?" Another option is, once the meeting is over, if it's being recapped, or if you are responsible for sending the team an email recap, give the credit to the idea provider, not the repeater. This is where technology can be of great help. Have AI be a note-taker for your meeting and let it do its magic. But don't forget to check it. AI can be wrong too, okay? Another option is to leverage tools such as one embedded in Microsoft Teams that calculates how much each attendee spoke. One last option: transcribe the meeting and then share the transcript with AI and ask, "Can you identify if anyone was interrupted during the meeting and who it was and by whom?" You can then use the response to help inform different approaches or ground rules to meetings, or even make it part of the team's routine to look at the speaking tracker at the end of each meeting, or assign this responsibility to an attendee. Again, while Judy's article plays with words to help us see these behaviors as coming from men towards women, it can come, and usually does come, from anyone. So, our call to action is, during the next month, can you be very alert to catch these behaviors in your interactions with anyone, but especially with women? If you catch yourself demonstrating these behaviors, just pause, apologize, acknowledge what you did, and set the example, which will hopefully become the new standard for vulnerable empathetic and humble leadership. If you are a woman, please, don't give up, don't give in. I get it, it's probably exhausting, but we need you to make the workplace and consequently the world a better place for yourself and others. There are many ways to do so, but I've seen great impact when female leaders help others understand the impact these misbehaviors had on them. Yes, we all should know better. But if we still don't, we have two options. We can suffer in silence and let these things be perpetuated, or we can speak up and give those around us the chance to improve. I hope you can end by saying what Emily Pine did in her book Notes to Self. I'm afraid of being the disruptive woman and of not being disruptive enough. I'm afraid, but I'm doing it anyway. To you, women, happy Women's History Month. I hope we can all see the changes we need to see in the world so that March can become a month of pure celebration versus a month of fight and reminders for things that need to be better. I will keep trying my very best to make that a reality as an ally. Receive my love and appreciation. To you, men, we can play an important role here as allies and champions of women in leadership. Let's do it? Thank you all for listening. Take care and talk soon.